What if the luxury you built for others was denied to you because of your skin color? Imagine building an empire dedicated to making everyone feel beautiful, valued, and welcome, only to discover that in your own establishment, you're not worthy of service. For Julian Vance, founder and CEO of the prestigious Aura Salons chain, this wasn't a hypothetical question. It became his reality. One ordinary Tuesday afternoon, Julian walked into his flagship salon, not as the successful entrepreneur whose vision had created over 50 locations nationwide, not as the business mogul whose face graced industry magazines, but as an average black man in casual clothes, hoping for a simple haircut. "I'm sorry, we're fully booked today," the receptionist told him with a tight smile, despite multiple empty chairs visible throughout the salon. When Julian pressed further, the truth emerged behind a veil of corporate language. For certain hair types, we require a preliminary consultation before booking a service. Minutes later, a white customer walked in without an appointment and was immediately seated. The identity reveal that followed left staff frozen in shock, careers hanging in the balance, and exposed a culture of discrimination flourishing right under the founder's nose. This isn't just a story about one man's shocking discovery. It's about the gap between what companies claim to value and what actually happens when customers walk through their doors. It's about how discrimination doesn't always wear a hostile face. Sometimes it hides behind professional smiles and fabricated policies. If you've ever witnessed discrimination disguised as company procedure or standard practice, hit that like button now. Your experience isn't isolated, and these stories deserve to be told. For Julian Vance, what began as a disturbing personal experience transformed into a corporate awakening. His company, built on the promise of inclusive luxury, now faced an existential crisis. The question wasn't just how this happened, but whether an organization can truly change after its foundational values are betrayed. Stay with me to witness how a moment of painful rejection became the catalyst for meaningful transformation. Julian Vance didn't just build Aura Salons, he revolutionized the industry. With a vision born from personal experience, he created a high-end salon chain explicitly founded on inclusivity. "Beauty shouldn't be exclusive," became the company's mission statement, emblazoned on every location's wall. Over 8 years, Aura expanded to 50 locations across the country, becoming the gold standard for luxurious, welcoming salon experiences. On paper, everything looked perfect. Quarterly reports showed consistent growth. Customer satisfaction metrics trended upward. The executive team celebrated each new milestone with champagne toasts in the sleek corporate headquarters. But Julian couldn't shake a growing unease. Something didn't align between the polished presentations and the reality he glimpsed online. Anonymous reviews mentioned uncomfortable experiences and feeling unwelcome. When he raised these concerns during board meetings, his executives dismissed them as outliers, statistical anomalies not worth investigating. "The numbers don't lie, Julian," his COO insisted during their last meeting. "We're doing better than ever." Then came the phone call that changed everything. Amara, a young stylist Julian had mentored years ago, reached out unexpectedly. Her voice was hesitant as she described visiting the company's flagship location as a customer. "I can't exactly point to anything specific they said or did," she explained carefully. "But Julian, I felt unwelcome. The way they looked at me, the questions they asked about my hair, it was different from how they treated others." That conversation haunted him. If Amara, someone he personally mentored, felt unwelcome, how many others experienced the same treatment without ever speaking up? Julian realized he'd become insulated by success. Between investor meetings and expansion plans, he'd lost touch with the day-to-day reality of his business. The executive reports couldn't capture the subtle dynamics of how customers actually felt in his salons. "The only way to know the truth is to experience it myself," he decided. No filters, no advance notice, just a regular customer walking through the door. Have you ever sensed something was wrong in an organization you trusted? That moment when your gut tells you there's a disconnect between what's being reported and what's actually happening? Julian was about to discover just how right his instincts were. The transformation took less than 30 minutes. Julian exchanged his tailored suit for worn jeans and a faded navy hoodie. He removed his expensive watch, replaced his designer glasses with an older pair, and pulled a baseball cap low over his eyes. The mirror reflected someone unrecognizable to the corporate world, just an ordinary black man seeking a haircut. "This is the only way to see the truth," he reminded himself, stepping out of his car 3 blocks from the flagship salon. The gleaming storefront of Aura's premier location welcomed him with its signature blue-tinted windows and minimalist logo. As Julian pushed through the heavy glass door, the familiar scent of luxury hair products and essential oils greeted him, fragrances he had personally selected for the brand. A soft chime announced his arrival. Behind the reception desk, a stylist named Lena glanced up, her practiced smile faltering slightly as her eyes assessed him. Julian noted the subtle shift, the almost imperceptible tightening of her expression as she took in his casual appearance. "Welcome to Aura," she said, her tone professionally distant. "How can I help you today?" "I'd like to get a haircut," Julian replied with the friendly confidence he naturally possessed. "Do you have any availability this afternoon?" Lena's fingers hovered over her tablet. "We're actually fully booked today." Julian surveyed the salon floor. Of the 12 styling stations, only 4 were currently occupied. "I don't mind waiting," he offered. "It looks like you have some open chairs." Her posture stiffened. "For certain hair types, we require a preliminary consultation appointment before scheduling services. It's our policy to ensure we can properly accommodate everyone's needs." A younger stylist named Maya, sweeping near the color station, paused momentarily. Her eyes darted toward the reception desk, her expression clouding with visible discomfort before she quickly resumed her task, head down. "I've never heard of this policy," Julian pressed gently. "Could you explain what qualifies as certain hair types?" "It's an internal guideline," Lena responded, her tone growing more dismissive. "You'll need to book a consultation online for next week." The salon manager, Philip, materialized beside her, his presence reinforcing the invisible barrier being erected. "Is there an issue here?" he asked, his gaze fixed somewhere above Julian's head. "No issue," Julian replied evenly. "I'm just trying to understand why I can't get a haircut today." The conversation ended with Julian being firmly directed to the website to book properly. As he turned to leave, the door opened behind him. A white man in business casual attire entered. "Hey, Mark. Running early today?" Lena called out, her voice warm and welcoming, transformed from just seconds earlier. "Actually, I don't have an appointment," Mark replied, "just hoping to squeeze in a quick trim before my meeting." "No problem at all," Lena beamed. "Alexis can take you right now." Julian stood frozen by the door, witnessing the stark contrast. The rejection he felt wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. This was his creation, his vision, his values being violated. The emotional weight crushed against his chest as he pushed through the door and stepped back into the street. In that moment, he wasn't the CEO worth millions. He was just another black man deemed unworthy of service, turned away from a space that ironically he had built to be welcoming to all. 2 hours later, the salon door opened again. The chime announced a different arrival. Julian Vance in his true form. Gone were the casual clothes and low-profile demeanor. He stood tall in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his presence commanding immediate attention. The subtle buzz of conversation and the mechanical hum of hairdryers continued for exactly 3 seconds before recognition rippled through the space. Lena noticed him first. The tablet she was holding slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the reception desk. Her face drained of color in an instant, eyes widening with the horrifying realization of what had transpired. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words emerged. Philip, who had been laughing with a client, turned toward the commotion. His smile vanished as though wiped away. His posture stiffened, and a visible sheen of sweat appeared on his forehead. He took an instinctive half-step backward. Stylists froze mid-cut. Clients sensed the dramatic shift in atmosphere, their curious gazes bouncing between their suddenly motionless stylists and the imposing figure standing in the center of the salon. Julian allowed the silence to stretch, understanding the power of this moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was measured, controlled, all the more impactful for its quietness. "Lena," he began, eyes locked on the receptionist, "could you please explain the consultation policy for certain hair types?" As the founder who wrote every procedure for this company, I'm curious when this particular guideline was implemented. She visibly trembled. Mr. Vance, I didn't recognize. That's not what I asked, Julian interrupted, his tone remaining calm. I asked about the policy you cited less than 2 hours ago. Philip stepped forward, his voice strained with forced professionalism. Sir, there must be some misunderstanding. We always strive to— There was no misunderstanding, Julian cut in. I was denied service because of my appearance, specifically because of my race, while a white walk-in client was immediately accommodated. Both of you participated in this discrimination, in my own establishment, built on principles of inclusivity and respect. The weight of his words hung in the air. Clients exchanged uncomfortable glances. Some gathered their belongings, quietly seeking escape from the palpable tension. Julian's gaze then shifted, finding Maya at her station. The young stylist stood rigid, clutching her broom with white knuckles, eyes downcast. Maya, he called, his tone softening. She looked up, fear etched across her features. I saw your reaction earlier. When they turned me away, you noticed. You knew it was wrong. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears as she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Thank you, Julian said simply. Integrity often begins with recognizing injustice, even when you feel powerless to stop it. Turning back to address the entire salon, Julian's expression hardened. Effective immediately, both Lena and Philip are suspended pending a full investigation. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., every employee will attend a mandatory meeting. What happened today isn't just about two individuals, it represents a failure of the culture I thought we had built. The pronouncement sent another shock wave through the space. Lena collapsed into her chair, while Philip stood motionless, his career visibly crumbling before everyone's eyes. Comment below. What would you have done in Julian's position? Would you have fired them on the spot, or taken a different approach to address the deeper issues at play? Let me know your thoughts. Julian's next actions would determine not just the fate of those involved, but the future of everything he had built. The next 24 hours transformed Aura Salons. Security escorted Lena and Philip from the premises, their access cards deactivated, their futures uncertain. An interim manager arrived from corporate headquarters to maintain operations, her expression grave as Julian briefed her on the situation. Word spread quickly. By nightfall, staff from all 50 locations buzzed with whispered conversations. Some defended the suspended employees, claiming they were just following unofficial expectations. Others expressed shock that such practices existed within a company that publicly championed inclusion. At precisely 8 a.m. the following day, Julian stood before a packed room of employees at the flagship salon. No press, no PR team crafting his message, just raw, uncomfortable truth. I owe you all an apology, he began, his voice steady. What happened yesterday reflects my failure as a leader. I built this company on the promise that everyone deserves to feel beautiful and welcome. Yet I allowed a culture to develop where the opposite could occur. Murmurs rippled through the gathered staff. This isn't just about two individuals making poor decisions. This is about systems that permitted those decisions to seem acceptable. I take full responsibility for that disconnect. Julian paused, scanning the room before continuing. Starting today, we rebuild, not just with words on walls or mission statements in employee handbooks, but with concrete actions that align with our founding values. He called Maya forward. The young stylist approached hesitantly, uncertainty in every step. Maya, yesterday you recognized injustice even when you felt powerless to speak against it. That's exactly the kind of moral compass this company needs in leadership. He announced her immediate promotion to assistant manager with a clear path to executive training. The room fell silent as the significance registered. This wasn't mere symbolism, but a fundamental redistribution of power, elevating someone whose values aligned with the company's stated mission. The emotional impact rippled visibly through the staff. Some nodded in approval. Others shifted uncomfortably, perhaps recognizing their own silence in similar situations. A few wiped away tears, moved by the acknowledgement that leadership was accepting accountability rather than seeking scapegoats. What happens when leadership confronts uncomfortable truths? In that moment, Aura Salons began discovering the answer. Pain and uncertainty, yes, but also the potential for authentic renewal that superficial solutions could never provide. The real work was just beginning. Julian understood a fundamental truth about organizational change. Removing problematic individuals without addressing the environment that fostered their behavior would solve nothing. True transformation required dismantling and rebuilding the company's foundation. 3 days after the incident, he unveiled the comprehensive field reform initiative to the entire company. The plan rested on 3 interconnected pillars. First, mandatory comprehensive training. Not the typical 1-hour diversity seminar that checked corporate boxes, but changed nothing. Julian partnered with respected anti-bias experts to develop an immersive program addressing the subtle mechanics of discrimination. Every employee, from reception staff to the executive suite, including Julian himself, would participate. This isn't about blame or shame, he explained during the announcement. It's about developing awareness of unconscious patterns and building new skills. No exceptions, no excuses. Second, structural accountability. Julian dissolved the executive-only policy committee that had created rules from an ivory tower perspective. In its place, he established a rotating council where frontline staff held equal votes alongside management. The people who interact with our clients daily must have voice in how we operate, Julian insisted. Policies should protect dignity, not become weapons of exclusion. Additionally, he instituted quarterly blind client evaluations, where people of different backgrounds would visit salons unannounced, reporting their experiences directly to headquarters. Compensation structure shifted to prioritize inclusive excellence over mere technical skill. Third, transparent communication. Julian created an anonymous reporting system managed by an independent ethics firm, ensuring employees could flag concerns without fear of retaliation. More radically, he publicly acknowledged the incident through an honest video statement to customers. "We failed to live our values," he stated plainly in the message. Rather than hiding that failure, we're using it as catalyst for genuine change. The practical implementation proved challenging. Some employees resigned, uncomfortable with the heightened accountability. Several investors questioned the financial wisdom of such extensive reform. Yet Julian remained resolute. "This isn't about optics or damage control," he told his board. "This is about building an organization that truly embodies its core purpose." 6 months later, the cultural shift became measurable. Client satisfaction scores rose across all demographic groups. Employee retention improved, particularly among stylists of color. The training program received industry recognition, with competitors beginning to adopt similar approaches. Most significantly, the conversation throughout Aura Salons fundamentally changed. Difficult discussions about inclusion moved from whispered complaints to open dialogue. Maya, now completing executive training, led staff workshops on creating genuinely welcoming environments. Is your workplace built to prevent discrimination, or just punish it? The distinction defines the difference between cosmetic changes and authentic transformation. For Aura Salons, answering this question honestly launched a painful but necessary journey toward becoming the company it had always claimed to be. What if the luxury you built for others was denied to you because of your skin color? This question forced Julian Vance to confront a painful reality that stated values mean nothing without consistent actions to support them. 1 year after the incident, Aura Salons emerged as an industry leader in truly inclusive luxury. Julian's willingness to face uncomfortable truths transformed not just his company, but sparked a movement across the beauty sector. Competitors began examining their own practices, recognizing that accountability isn't a PR crisis to manage, but an opportunity for authentic growth. The story illustrates a crucial lesson about corporate responsibility. Real change demands more than removing bad actors. It requires examining the entire ecosystem that enabled discrimination to flourish despite noble mission statements. When leaders take personal responsibility rather than seeking scapegoats, transformation becomes possible. For every business that claims to value diversity and inclusion, Julian's journey offers a challenging question. Would your company's practices hold up if you experienced them as a customer from a marginalized group? If this story moved you, subscribe now for more powerful narratives of justice. These aren't just stories, They're mirrors reflecting uncomfortable truths about our society and opportunities for meaningful change. Remember, leadership isn't measured by success during easy times. True leadership reveals itself in how we respond when our core values are tested, when we must choose between comfortable falsehoods and difficult truths.